At minus 50 degrees Celsius, a lost child was surrounded by wolves. The cold was deadly. The child was freezing. And the wolves were getting closer. But something strange happened. The wolves didn't attack. Instead, they stayed close, protecting him from the storm. A ranger followed the tracks and found the child just in time. The child survived, and the wolves disappeared into the snow. At minus 50 degrees, the forest wasn't just cold, it was unforgiving. The kind of cold that doesn't just freeze your skin, it slows your thoughts, weakens your body, and quietly takes away your strength. Snow fell endlessly from a dark, silent sky, covering every path, every direction, every hope of escape. In the middle of that endless white silence stood a small child, no older than 5. His red jacket, once bright, was now dusted with frost. His tiny blue gloves trembled as he held onto a worn-out teddy bear, the only thing that felt familiar in a world that had suddenly turned hostile. He didn't know where he was. He didn't know how he got there. All he knew was that he was alone and getting colder by the second. Then, movement. At first, it was just shadows between the trees, subtle, silent, watching. Then they stepped into the open, 4 wolves. Their thick fur carried flakes of snow, their breath visible in the frozen air. They didn't rush. They didn't attack. Instead, they began to circle the child slowly, their paws making almost no sound against the snow. The child turned in place, his eyes wide with fear. Every instinct inside him screamed danger. Every story he had ever heard told him the same thing. Wolves meant death. The circle tightened, and the storm grew louder. The wind picked up suddenly, howling through the forest like a warning that came too late. Snow whipped across the clearing, reducing visibility to almost nothing. The child tried to move, but his legs felt heavy, unresponsive. He took a step and stumbled. Behind him, the wolves adjusted their positions, not closer, but aligned, matching his movement. Watching carefully, then something unexpected happened. The child's grip loosened, and his teddy bear slipped from his hands, falling into the snow. He stared at it, panic rising in his chest. But his body refused to respond. He couldn't bend. He couldn't move. One of the wolves stepped forward. The child froze. The wolf lowered its head slowly, cautiously, and nudged the teddy bear back toward him. Not aggressively, gently. The child blinked, confused. His fear didn't disappear, but something changed. Something he couldn't explain. The wolves weren't acting like hunters. They were acting differently. As the storm intensified, the wolves began to shift again, not in attack formation, but in something that looked almost protective. They stayed close enough to the child to block the wind, but never close enough to harm him. It didn't make sense, but it was real. Miles away, beyond the thick line of frozen trees, a night guard was making his routine patrol. The storm had already made conditions dangerous, but something on the ground caught his attention. Footprints. Small ones. A child. And beside them, larger prints. Wolves. He crouched down, studying them carefully. The pattern wasn't right. There was no sign of struggle. No dragging marks. No chaos. Just parallel movement. Side by side. His expression changed from confusion to concern. Without hesitation, he stood up and followed the trail. The wind pushed hard against him as he moved deeper into the forest. Snow stung his face, his flashlight beam cutting through the darkness in short, flickering bursts. The further he went, the stranger it felt. The tracks continued. Together. Step after step. Whatever was happening out there, it wasn't normal. And it wasn't safe. When the guard finally reached the clearing, he stopped instantly. What he saw didn't make sense. The child was on his knees, barely conscious, his body shaking uncontrollably. And around him the wolves. But they weren't attacking. They were facing outward, forming a barrier, blocking the storm, protecting him. The guard's breath slowed. His instincts told him to stay back. Wolves were unpredictable, dangerous. One wrong move could end everything. He took a careful step forward. Immediately, the wolves reacted. Their heads turned sharply. One of them let out a low, warning growl. The tension snapped tight like a wire ready to break. The guard froze. For a long moment, no one moved. Then the wolf, with a faint scar over its eye, stepped forward. It looked directly at the guard, and then, slowly, it stepped back, not retreating in fear, but allowing space. It was a decision. A choice. The guard understood. Without wasting another second, he rushed forward, lifting the child into his arms. The boy was freezing, his body weak and unresponsive. The wolves didn't stop him. They simply watched. Silent. Still. The storm roared louder as the guard turned and ran. Each step was a struggle, the wind pushing him back, the snow trying to slow him down. But he didn't stop. He couldn't. The child's life depended on it. For a brief moment he noticed movement beside him. The wolves, running alongside him. Not chasing. Not attacking. Escorting. Then, just as suddenly as they appeared, they slowed down. Stopped. Watched. The guard kept running until a faint light broke through the storm, a small cabin in the distance. He reached it with the last of his strength and pushed the door open. Warmth flooded the space. Inside, he wrapped the child in blankets, placing him near the fire. Slowly, painfully, life returned to the boy's body. His breathing steadied. The color came back to his face. He was going to survive. Hours later, the storm began to calm. The guard stood by the window, looking out into the endless white. And there they were. The wolves. Standing at a distance. Watching. Not waiting for anything. Not expecting anything. Just making sure. Then, one by one, they turned. And disappeared into the forest. No sound. No trace. As if they had never been there at all. But the truth remained. In the deadliest cold, where survival seemed impossible, 4 wolves chose to protect instead of hunt. And because of that, a child lived. Please subscribe to my channel and like my video.